Tony Ferguson versus Justine Gaethjie. That's the fight we're gonna get at UFC 249, and I'm really excited about it. I really like that fight. I think all MMA fans like that fight. The only people that are upset about it, I think, are Khabib fans that really want to see Khabib compete. But like Khabib went back to Russia to be with his family, to be with his wife, to be with his kids, with his parents. That's completely understandable. And the thing about Khabib is that he didn't. He still wanted to fight. He went to Abu Dhabi because he thought the fight was going to be in Abu Dhabi. Dana White told him 99% chance that this fight is going to go on in Abu Dhabi. So Khabib flies to Abu Dhabi. He goes there. Abu Dhabi starts closing down. He goes to Russia, thinking that he can fly out of Russia back to the US or wherever the fight's going to take place. Turns out he can't anymore. And now he's stuck there. And we can't say anything bad about Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's not scared to fight. That's just silly talk. Khabib will fight anyone. But right now, the fight is not Tony Ferguson versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. It's Tony Ferguson versus Justine Gaethjie, and it's gonna be a hell of a fight. There's no way this fight turns out to be a stinker. There's just no way. Neither of these guys have ever been in a boring fight, and they're not gonna sit back and try to calculate. They're technical fighters. They're very technical fighters. They set things up, but they're also very aggressive, and they're always looking for the finish. And they're not afraid to put themselves in a bad position just to gain some sort of advantage. Like they'll eat a shot to give a couple of shots back. They'll stand in the fire and bang. And I'm trying to predict this fight. I'm trying to break it down, and there's a bunch of different aspects to it. So if we look at Justine Gaethjie, two things that really stand out to me. Of course, his wrestling, but he never really uses his wrestling. Although it might have to become a factor in this fight because Tony will grapple a lot. If he gets the chance or if the fight just goes there, he won't mind just staying on the ground and trying to submit you. He's not always going to be in a rush to get back to his feet. But Justine Gaethjie, I really like his right hand, his uppercut, and his leg kicks. Now, if you haven't seen Justine Gaethjie kick an opponent before, it's out of this world to see someone kick the way he kicks when he hasn't had a lifetime of Thai boxing or a lifetime of kickboxing. This guy was a wrestler. He was wrestling his whole life, and then he transitions to MMA, and that's when he starts learning how to kick. And he kicks like world-class Thai boxing, world-class kickboxing. I mean, I cannot look at his kicks and see anything wrong with them. Like his timing is so good, his footwork is so good, his range is so good, and the power he's able to deliver. He puts his hips into it, and you look. Edson Barboza is one of the greatest kickers in MMA, right? At least like in the modern era. I mean, of all time, really. He's one of the best kickers. He's right up there, with Mirko Cro Cop and things like that. And then when he fought Justine Gaethjie outkicked him and then knocked him out. So that goes to tell you how good Justine Gaethjie's kicks are. So that's something that Tony's going to have to figure a way around. And then you also got the right hand and the uppercut. Now, Justine is very aggressive, and he will take a shot to give one. But he's also very calculated. He knows when to get in and when to get out. He knows when there's an opening. He understands positions very well. So does Tony Ferguson. You're going to see that Tony Ferguson and Justine Gaethjie actually have a lot of similarities. There's only a few things that really puts them apart. And so they're both really good at their distance. And so let's talk about Tony Ferguson a little bit. Tony Ferguson is very well-rounded. We know that, right? And he's the kind of guy that doesn't mind where the fight goes. If the fight is on the ground, he'll fight on the ground. If the fight is on the feet, he'll fight on the feet. If it's wrestling, if it's clinching, whatever it is, you want to kick with him, you want to elbow with him, it doesn't matter. He's happy to go wherever the fight goes. Sometimes you see fighters like they're a striker, obviously they're mixed martial artists, they are well-rounded, but they don't really want to be on the ground. They want to use their wrestling in reverse. They want to get back up to their feet and strike you. Tony Ferguson doesn't care about that. However, if he comes into this fight smart, you know, which he will, I'm sure he will. He should use his grappling more. Now, Justine Gaethje is a really good wrestler, and his background is wrestling. But Tony Ferguson's jiu-jitsu is very, very top level. Just remember, we're talking about a guy. This is the guy, Tony Ferguson, that Eddie Bravo took off his own black belt and gave it to him. When Eddie Bravo promoted Tony Ferguson to black belt, Eddie Bravo took his own black belt off of his waist and gave it to Tony Ferguson. So, and you gotta think about all the students that Eddie Bravo has had in his career. You can only do that once. You can only give the belt off of your waist one time. So, and that's Tony Ferguson that's got that. And you've seen the submissions that he has. He can submit you with triangles. He can submit you with guillotines. He can submit you with darts. I mean, his transitioning from the guillotine to the darts is so good. He does it on the fly like that. He's a real student. You can see this guy is a guy who's in the gym every single day, putting in the extra hours. He's there early. He's there before anybody's there, and he's there after everybody's gone. He's putting in the hours day in and day out. He's taking no breaks. His conditioning. I've talked about this before. Sometimes when you look at Tony Ferguson striking, obviously he's very good, but you might be able to argue that it's not as technical as some other people's striking, like Conor McGregor or Edson Barboza, for example, or Anthony Pettis. Both guys, Anthony Pettis and Edson Barboza, guys who Tony Ferguson beat. Their striking, on paper, even if you're watching them fight with other people, you're like, they have better striking, but Tony Ferguson, when he hits people, I think it's hurting different. It hurts differently when Tony Ferguson hits you than when someone else hits you. And I think when you hit Tony Ferguson, it doesn't really hurt him as much as when you hit someone else. And I think that's because of all the conditioning and training he does, all these weird, unconventional methods where he's hitting like walls and steels and kicking metal poles and punching tires or whatever he's doing. Like I think that really does make him tougher. It's kind of like that Shaolin monk style of training, which takes a lot of commitment. And we don't practice it much in MMA, like, so we don't know if it really works or not. But why not? It could work. I definitely thought it worked, like, early on in my martial arts journey. So it's gonna be a very, very, very interesting fight. There's just no way that this fight is boring. That's the best thing about it. So if you're a fan, you can be excited about this fight. It's gonna be fireworks. Someone is gonna get knocked out, and if it goes the distance, no problem, because it's gonna be a hell of a fight. There's gonna be 5 rounds of hell. So it would just be that much more enjoyable to see them go 5 rounds. But I think when it goes a distance, let me say this: Tony has an advantage, right? There's something really important to look about this fight that's not about their styles, but about the fact that Tony Ferguson has been preparing to fight on April 18th for a long time, and he was training to fight Khabib Nurmagomedov. So he trained his ass off for this fight. Justine Gaethjie had no fight scheduled at all. He is coming off of a training camp for his teammate that fought. So, he's in shape. It's Justine Gaethjie. He's going to be in shape, but he might not necessarily be in fight shape. So, the longer the fight goes, I definitely give the advantage to Tony Ferguson. And also because even when Justine Gaethjie has been prepared for fights, you've seen him slow down. So, in the UFC, for example, his only 2 losses are Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier. Both fights that went 3 rounds. So no one has beaten Justine Gaethjie in the UFC or outside the UFC, if I'm not correct. If I'm not correct, no one's even beat him outside the UFC inside of 1 or 2 rounds. So I definitely give the advantage to Tony Ferguson if it goes the distance. With that being said, what do you guys think of the fight? What do you guys think about the rest of the fights? What do you want me to talk about next? Because we are going to be making more videos. I'd like you guys to comment below what you think. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and give us a like.